Good morning, guys and girls, and welcome back. We're going to switch gears here a little bit, and I'm going to talk about a new project the young fella and I just recently purchased together. It's a Polaris Razor side-by-side. We originally purchased it here it needed some transmission work, and we decided to get it and got it for a half-decent price, so we got it and tore the transmission apart. I just want to outline some of the problems you may run into when you're buying a used side-by-side like this and you want to fix it up. The previous owner had put a new primary clutch and stuff in it, and we bought it with the transmission not shifting right. The transmission would shift into gear, but it would, this shifter was floppy. It would go back and forth and you couldn't feel the gears in the transmission, so we took out the transmission, tore it apart. It did come with another transmission for it that was, well, it was a blown up transmission, but it had the parts and pieces that we did require to fix this one. So we went ahead and tore this transmission apart. I'm sorry I didn't get any video of it. I wish I would have videoed it at the time, all the work, but this was, well, it was a learning experience for us too. I don't work on side-by-sides. I don't work on ATVs usually and stuff, other than little things like oil changes and things. I stick with that stuff there. I mean, the cars, trucks, and stuff like that. I usually don't get into the ATVs not too much. Not that I can't, but I just prefer not to. Anyways, we got into this to make a long story short and kind of think I've figured out the reason why the transmission went in the first place. Or that pin broke in the transmission shifter. I think they call it as a detent pin for the shifting. Once we got the transmission put back together and the new pin and stuff in there, the bike would still shift very, very hard. Like you would really have to reef on the shifter to get this thing to shift out of park. That's not right, and those pins are just a little roll pin inside that transmission, so it really wouldn't take a whole lot to break it. We got looking at it to see why it would be doing that, and come to find out, when the side-by-side was in park, when the engine running, the primary would be spinning, but the secondary would be spinning just as fast as the primary at an idle. That shouldn't be doing that. It's keeping everything going through the transmission, making it extremely hard to shift. So upon us looking at it a little deeper, we found that there's like a one-way bearing in there on those primaries. They're supposed to be there, and sometimes people fall into the trap. I think there's other videos out here on YouTube as well outlining this. Some people fall in the trap of buying cheap turbos, I got turbos on the mind. Buying the cheap primaries, and when they do that, they don't come with that one-way roller bearing in them. They don't come with that roller bearing in there that the belt kind of rides along when that machine's at an idle. So we looked, and this one, that was the case. It did not have that bearing. So therefore, it was constantly spinning the secondary, which was making it extremely hard to shift. We went to take the aftermarket clutch off. We borrowed a Polar and stuff from a friend of mine, and none of the bolts were right for the Polar to fit in the primary. We ended up at the last of it, long story short, there was no threads left in primary. I don't know if we did it trying to get it off or if it was already done, but there was no threads in it, nothing there to put a Polar on. So I ended up having to build my own Polar. Now, I'm not saying this is the proper way. I'm not a professional by any means when it comes to this stuff. I'm a fabricator, and that's what I always will be, I guess. When I need something built and I need a tool, I usually go and build it myself to make it work. It may not be right. I'm not telling you guys to do it this way. So if you decide to do it, you're on your own. It worked for me. That's all I'll tell you. I turned around and I built this Polar. It was just kind of a makeshift thing out of a piece of channel iron I had laying around. I took the outside cover from the primary off. I think there's like 2, 4, 6 screws in it. Took that off, set it on top of this piece of channel iron, marked out the bolt holes, and marked out the center of that. anyways, I'll show you. I'd show you a picture of it, and that'll be best described. Okay, so this is my makeshift puller, okay? All it consists of is some longer screws to go into the primary, bolt and a nut, and like I say, I marked out the, from the cover on the primary, I marked out the bolt holes and drilled them in it so I could bolt these screws right here into these holes here in the end of the primary. And then I used a steel rod going into the crankshaft. And then when I tightened this bolt in, it hit that steel rod that went into the end and butted up against the end of the crankshaft and pulled pressure on the primary. So when it pulled some pressure on it, I then just took a mallet and give it a quick tap on the primary, and boom, it come right off. That is the way that I ended up fixing the stripped out threads in the primary. I don't know if it's going to be any help to you. Like I say, I'm not a professional. I just make stuff that works for me, and what works for me may not work for you, and I'm not telling you by any means to go ahead and build something like this, but if you decide to, hey, work for me. So anyways, just thought I'd throw that out, little tidbit, help you if you run into the same situation. I'll show you a picture of the side-by-side here and show you what it looks like right now. So this is it. Like I say, wish I would have took some video of it when we were doing the work to it. It's just a little project we're in the middle of, just trying to clean things up now and paint some things. I think the young fella's trying to get some more aggressive tires for it and stuff. It's got a little lift kit in it and stuff. It's just Razor 800. Seems like a nice working machine now. We've got it running, and we'll probably have some fun with this. So there's just a quick recap. Hope this helps anybody that might be having a few problems with them as far as getting that old clutch off, if it's a cheap aftermarket clutch like we ran into. That's what we did to get it off. All right. Thanks, guys, for watching. Bye-bye.